Hi everyone, I am Father J. Boy Gonzalez. I'm a Jesuit priest and the director of the Ignatian Spirituality and Formation Office of the Ateneo de Davao University. The prayer that we will use is called a preparatory prayer. It is taken from the spiritual exercises of Saint Ignatius of Loyola. Jesuits usually use this prayer to begin classes, meetings, spiritual activities, and events. It says that whatever we do should begin and end through God. And that is exactly what we want and hope for in this activity. May I ask the Catholics to mark themselves with the sign of the cross, while the others might put themselves in their own proper disposition. And so, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, Amen. Dear Lord, we ask you to help orient all our actions by your holy inspirations. Carry them out by your gracious assistance, that every prayer and work of ours may always begin from you and through you be happily ended. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, Amen. Enjoy this event.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magiliw, telas ng sinangalan, alam ng puso, sa dikit mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, kuya ka ng magiting, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa nagagang tutok sa simoy at sa langit mong bangaw, ay hinagang tulad, awit sa pagkayang minamahal, ang isa kang matawad mo'y tagumpay na naghihinig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pang ay di magtitingin, luman ang araw ng walang pagsinta, mo'y langit sa piling mo. Ang hinigaya na pagkay mga akin, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Ayan! Hello everyone! Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. Welcome to another episode of ISFO TV. I am Roel Ray C. Asineta from Ateneo de Davao University Junior High School. Allow me to introduce my co-host for this afternoon, Miss Apple Grace Bonhoc. Hi, Apple!
Hi, good afternoon everyone! Hello to all our viewers! And shout out nga pala to the Ateneo de Davao University community, especially to our junior high school students and teachers, the Ateneo Student Executive Council, Council of Class Presidents, and sa samahan. And of course, maliban sa baon kong listahan ng gusto ko i-shout out, meron din akong baong kape. Ayan, kape para sa mainit na talakayan natin this afternoon. Kape para lalong maging gising sa katotohanan. Ikaw, Rowan, what's your baon this afternoon?
Ako naman, ang baon ko is also my coffee. Ayan, plug ko lang, Truly Rich Club. I love drinking coffee. I could drink coffee all day.
Same, I can relate. And yung mga viewers natin, please tell us as well, ano yung baon nyo para sa chikahan natin this afternoon. So wag mahihiyang mag-comment, just put your answers there in the comment section and tell us what's your baon. And I think while waiting, meron tayong pa-trivia, right, Roel?
Yes, meron tayong patrivia. Ang title ng patrivia natin is Be Woke and Win. Alright, paano ba yung Be Woke and Win, Apple? Madali lang yan. Ang gagawin lang ng ating mga audience, so okay, sa Facebook Live natin, is mag-comment lang. And they can win prizes. So they have to stay tuned until the end.
That's right. And of course, again, don't forget to use our official hashtag #WokeUpLikeThis. And I think meron tayong na-research, no, kung ano yung definition natin ng woke. So mag-share kami, guys. Roel, asan na ba yung research natin? Sige, ikaw na.
Teka, babasahin ko muna kasi baka magkamali ako, Apple eh. Okay. Bago tayo bago ko sabihin yung basic definition ng woke. Ano lang siguro, nito. I would like to invite our audience. Ano ba sa tingin niyo yung ibig sabihin ng salitang woke? Sige nga, pa-comment nga sa chat.
Yes, go ahead, comment guys. And then, kung hindi nyo alam, siguro, just put yung emoji na mata. Lagay nyo dyan sa comment section. Go ahead. Huwag may
Ayan,
hiya.
sige. So while we are waiting, ayan, sasabihin ko na kung anong meaning. According to our research, the term woke means being aware of social problems. Ano sa tingin mo, Apple?
I agree. Kumbaga, you're not just aware and you are also actively engaged kung ano yung nangyayari in the society. Kaya naman, this afternoon, pag-uusapan natin kung gaano nga ba kamulat yung mga tao ngayon. Whether andun pa ba tayo sa level na shook lang, gulat sa mga pangyayari. Mulat ba o simply aware o gising na at handang manindigan at sumulong? Para masagot ang mga katanungan yan, let's now call our guest for this afternoon.
Ayan. Our first guest is the Mutya ng Pilipinas 2019 Asia Pacific International, an ambassador for sustainable development goals and an advocate for indigenous preservation. Let's all welcome Ms. Cliza Castro.
Hi, Cliza!
Ayan.
Welcome to ISFO
Hi,
TV.
Cliza. Ano bang baon mo ngayon?
Wala akong kape, pero may water para hydrated sa usapan ngayon. Ganon.
Ganon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Ayan, we're so happy you're here.
Thank you,
Go ahead,
Glenn.
Apple.
So, joining us this afternoon is another student leader, a student leader who is the current president of Samahan, the official student government of the Ateneo de Davao University. Let's all welcome Carlo Torion. Hi, Carlo.
Alright. Hi, Carlo.
Mayang hapon sa tanan. Of course, I'm very happy to be here.
Yan, welcome guys to TV. Carlo,
Ano
what's
yung
your baon?
Ayan. Go ahead.
Akong baon lang po. Same kay Cliza, mga kuan. Water lang gid mi diri na side. Wala may soft drinks.
No, wala may kape. Para lang, healthy lang ganon.
Yan, pang-adulting na yata yan eh.
Correct. And let's go to
Our
our third
third
guest.
guest, yes, our third guest is also a student leader. He's an athlete and an author. Joining us this afternoon is Jed Diamante.
Hi,
Hi
Jed.
guys,
Welcome to
Mario, Mario,
ISFO
Kumusta?
TV.
Hi, thank you for having me. We're surrounded by very like thoughtful individuals, yung talagang deep mag-isip. So I'm excited for the conversation that we'll be having this afternoon.
All
All right,
right.
thank you, Jed. And also, our episode this afternoon will not be complete without hearing a Jesuit's perspective. Joining our young guest is someone who is both young-looking and young at heart. Let's all
Sino ba
welcome
yan?
Father. It's a Jesuit. Let's all welcome Father. Dun, 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 dun. Father I.J. Chan Gonzaga, SJ. Hi, Father.
Yan. Hi, Father.
Mayong hapon sa tanan.
Ayong hapon, Father.
Ayan, so Apple, bago tayo mag-Q&A, bago tayo magchikahan, we just want to encourage our guests no, that they can respond to the questions or they can resonate. So if they can relate or somehow they want to add some more sa sharing ng iba nating guests, pwede. At as much as possible, kung pwede, wala tayong any political color dito. Alright, sige, go ahead, Apple.
Thank you, Rowell, for that reminder. And also to the netizens out there, again, be sure to actively participate in this episode because we will be giving prizes to our most engaged participant this afternoon about articulating views on social issues. So you may comment your answers and your takeaways. Again, don't forget to use our official hashtag, #WokeUpLikeThis. And please don't forget to observe netiquette as well. So to begin our kwentuhan, balikan muna natin yung title na episode natin this afternoon, Woke Up Like This. So kanina tinanong natin yung mga netizens, ano ba yung own definition nila ng salitang woke? Merong mga nagsasabi na pag woke daw is more of being a noise rather than a voice. Kaya gusto naming malaman yung thoughts na ating panel about this. Ano yung mga naiisip nyo when you hear the word woke? Siguro, let's start with Liza.
For me, being woke is of course being aware with what is happening around us. So there are many misconceptions that being woke is only on the negative side, but I have to disagree because for me it can either be positive or negative because our generation has grown so much to being passive to actually now being aware of what's going on around the world. So the question is, what are you going to do about it, especially in social media? So are you going to use it to educate other people, to attack other people? And that boils down to it being either positive or negative. Yan po.
Alright.
Alright, thank you, Clyde. So, dalawa siya. So, awareness and then active engagement. So, hindi ka so woke, negative na agad yung label na yon. Thank you, Clyde. And so, let's also hear, no? Carl, pag sinabing woke, ano yung naiisip mo?
Well, of course, the word woke, as already stated, dagan kayong meaning. But I think it's about call to action. Yeah, gwapo kay timing because 13 days from now is actually the end of the registration. And I believe by being woke, or in the positive sense that we have in this conversation, is to also register and also help people discern as to who they will be voting for, what they will be voting for this coming 2022 elections. Thus, woke can mean many things, but at the end of the day, it's always about what you will do with your actions. Yun na po. Salamat.
Wow, thank you, Carl. So again, it's important na maging actively engaged, no? So not just socially aware, but also you have to do something about it. And important yung sinabi ni Carlo about the upcoming elections. So kailangan mag-register na yung mga kabataan, yung mga netizens natin ngayon na hindi pa registered. So please don't forget to register.
Ayan, of course. Every vote counts kasi, Apple.
Correct. And I think yung youth natin ngayon, I think sila yung biggest chunk talaga ng population. So kailangan mag-register sila. Mga around 10 million young people na pwedeng bumoto.
That's
Ayan,
right.
so,
That's right. Okay, perhaps we can I guess Apple, we can ask na lang Jed and or Father IJ how they react to the opinions of Liza and Carlo.
Sige, I'd like to start. I think they were able to answer it like precisely. Yung two ideas na mentioned was awareness, obviously. So we have to be aware of what's happening around us, and with that information, what do we do about it? Like how do we act upon the knowledge that we have? And I think yung awareness, yung pagiging woke, it becomes negative when people take information as is just because yun yung popular belief. And I think the discernment comes into play when we process ano yung information na take in natin and how we use that information to move on with our next step. So I think they were able to, I agree with what they say na, awareness and using what we know or the information that we have to parang call to action siya.
All right, thank you very much, Jed. It's a matter of, responding to call to action. Okay? Hindi lang puro lip service, hindi lang puro comment and opinion sharing. Father IJ, parang napakalalim ng iniisip natin dyan.
Pwede ba mag-thumbs down na lang? Now then, they've already said it, no? So I mean, mas generation nyo talaga yung angkin yung salitang yan. But I like what they said earlier, no? Parang it's both an awareness and a call to action. So, di ba? Parang then let it be so. Ang mas gusto ko nga minsan pag gusto mo manggulo ng konti, yung mga pawok dyan na kumbaga pa pataka lang. Kaya naman kayo, wag lang pawok. So,
tama, no? Especially now, no, napakaraming nagko-comment kapag may nag-post different views. From being woke naman, Apple, let's talk about being triggered. Ayan, triggered naman yung pag-uusapan natin. Kapag meron tayong nakikita post about social issue at medyo triggered kayo dahil doon, how do you express your thoughts and make a stand about them on your social media platform? Siyempre, no, I think many of us have more time on Facebook or any social media platforms. So pag natitrigger kayo, paano kayo nagre-react? Balikan natin si Father IJ. Ayan, Father IJ, thumbs up lang ba?
yung sorry.
Pag meron kang nakikita sa social media, Father, na hindi ka agree or parang yung termong pataka lang, how do you express your opinion naman?
Mababa yan. Well, no? But to be honest, one thing, kumbaga, ako, I also believe, walang basagan ng trip. Pero, there are things that are true, and there are things that, medyo you have crossed some boundaries. So, if it's an opinion, okay. But if you begin to claim on something that is totally untrue, it's a different matter. So, but ako, I'm active in social media, but I don't post as often as the others.
All right.
So, ganun ako.
Right. I guess very well said, Father. It's all a matter of which lens you are using kapag may mga ganyang comments. I like the term walang basagan ng trip. Kasi ngayon, kumbaga, everybody has the freedom to post whatever they want. Minsan siguro hindi natin kailangang pakialaman, pero may mga bagay na may opinion tayo, especially when we know of the topic, right, Apple?
Yes, kasi Father, and to our guests na din, di ba napapansin natin sa comment section, minsan nagiging norm na yung nag-aaway sa comment section, and although may exchange ng ideas, pero more on arguments na kasi siya. So, how do you usually handle that po? Yung parang, first, ano yung nagiging reaction mo, tapos, paano ka nakiki-engage sa ganyang klaseng post? Siguro, let's ask Jed muna.
Yeah. With regards to discussion, I think the right term for that is discussion. Parang yun nga, nagkaka-argument na kumbaga sa mga posts. I think we have to uphold a certain culture of respect. And I think yun yung isa sa mga nakakalimutan na kumbaga ngayon. Kasi, let's say ang daming nagpo-post online na ang kanilang, like what father said, no, walang basagan ng trip. Yung iba talagang nang-trip lang. Talagang ang intention nila para mag-post is manggulo or manginis ng ibang tao. But if you really want to have this healthy conversation, I think what we have to do when we do discussions is we target the issue and not the people who are trying to give their opinions. Because I think that's one of the things that causes or that triggers, no, yung nagkakaroon ng mga trigger points sa conversations is we're not talking about the issue anymore. We are targeting the person. Kasi bobo ka, kaya ganito yung, sorry for the word, pero kasi bobo ka, ganito yung pag-iisip mo about that. So, parang instead of it being a healthy conversation, it's becoming parang firing range na kumbaga. And in the end, we don't resolve anything because what we want is they only want to hear what they want to hear. They're not there for the conversation. So I think this is the type of culture that we have to uphold. The culture of respect na talagang nakikinig. And I think that this is the best time for us to uphold that kind of culture. Kasi everyone is online. With the pandemic, wala tayong ibang magawa kundi, all our engagements are online. And I think we can start, tayo mismo, those who are aware of this, tayo mismo yung mag-start ng culture of respect in terms of, having conversations.
All right.
Alright, thank you, Jed. So again, wag natin kakalimutan to be always respectful when we communicate, not just online, but also when we're communicating in person. Important siya, regardless of the platform that you use. And so, I'm just curious, I would also like to ask our guest, paano ba kayo parang nagre-react or nagagalit ba din kayo minsan kapag may mga not just fake news, no? So mga opinions na anchored on fake news na nakaka-trigger din sa inyo. Do you make a stand ba? Parang nandun ba kayo din sa point na yon na I have to make a stand and also correct this person, ganyan. Siguro, let's hear from Carlo muna.
I think the most difficult part sa pag-combat sa fake news is the fact na it's hard to pinpoint to some na murag, this is fake news because when you think of fake news, you literally have to do a lot of research. And admittedly, not everyone has the time to really research. But I think what's important here is, of course, to go into a conversation, as what Jed said, with respect, or more importantly, with an open mind. Na kung ano sasabihin mo, baka hindi rin tama sa iba, or kung ano sasabihin ng iba, baka hindi rin tama sa iyo. Open perspectives because the world is full of perspectives kasi. And there's no singular, nobody has a monopoly on truth. So I hope na when we react, we can just have a really open mind and of course have a respectful demeanor when we have these conversations.
Thank you, Carl. So magandang reminder yun, no? To keep an open mind, especially when we are engaging into a discourse, not just in social media. And also, I think ngayon sa panahon natin, it's important na we also arrive with a common ground, no? Sa tingin mo, Rowell?
Well, ako naman, Apple, I will agree with you on that. At napapansin naman natin, di ba, kung merong mang ayaw makialam, mas marami yung ayaw paawat. Okay? So, sa pagbibigay ng kanilang opinions. And there are times when netizens cannot agree to disagree, which leads me to the next question. Is it possible for people to agree on something and have a common ground on the different social issues? Possible ba yun? Ayan, tanungin siguro natin si Clyza.
For me naman, I have to agree with what Carlos said, na the world is full of perspectives and we are not in any position naman to dictate what perspective another person has because as Jed said, we also have to uphold this tradition and culture of respect na sadly medyo nawawala na nowadays. Kaya minsan parang, ako kasi I'm not the aggressive type, so when I'm offended by someone, my initial reaction will never be to rush to social media and post or expose and then do the cancel culture that's so prevalent na nowadays. I'm also for always respect and educating someone kasi we never know kung bakit ganun kanyang perspective. We never know bakit may lack siya of research on a certain topic. So instead of actually attacking the person itself, we should actually focus on the topic, just like what Jed said. And that's the only way that we can form some sort of common ground with the other person.
Right, ayan,
Alright,
thank you
thank
very
you
much, Liza.
guys.
Mhm. Teka, sandali lang, Apple, ah. I remember lang, sinabi kasi kanina ni Clive, regarding, you don't really necessarily have to cancel the person. So, how about you, Apple? Do you cancel people? Like, dismiss their arguments kapag ka may sinasabi silang you disagree?
Ako, I can really resonate dun sa sinabi ni Cliza earlier kasi I'd rather understand kung ano yung pinanggagalingan ng tao instead of simply judging agad na, ay, parang bakit ganito opinion niya. So, you have to understand kung ano yung source niya, ano yung context niya, para you'd be able to communicate, get your message across na ito, sa tingin ko, ganito din yung opinion ko about this. So, para wala lang clash, kailangan we understand first kung ano yung pinanggagalingan ng other person. I think may gusto sabihin si Father IJ. Father?
Nagigigil ako si Father IJ eh.
Yeah, ako no, agree din ako sa lahat. Just a couple of things, and I also go to the earlier question. That's why ako, when there are posts of friends, former students na may mga that I don't normally agree with, I message them privately. Because I don't use comments back. Because marami din doon, alam mo, it's just trolling. So, I normally would like to engage the person directly. It's really different pag directly nakakausap mo yung tao. And then we get to discuss more in depth. But just also on a minor point, no? Yes, there are a million perspectives, but there will also be absolute truths that are factual. So that is why sa akin, when there are parang kung merong medyo edit or medyo malabo, I go to the issue and I don't go to the person. Yes, you would want as much as possible to understand saan nanggagaling yung tao, pero para sa akin, you start to do that, you start to think so many theories. So it will not help. I'd rather, as Jed said, what's the topic at hand? So that when the topic is what you're talking about, then you actually just simply discuss on the topic. And that's why your question kanina, na pagsabi mo na, is there a possibility for us to agree to agree to disagree? Is there an even possibility for that? Sa akin, if we go to the topic itself and not to the person and personalities, yeah. But nadadala tayo, and I guess, as you said, nothing political, pero para sa akin, you would also see, and this is para sa mga shout-out sa mga kabataan, no? You also see that malayo-layo pa tayo na when we vote, we never vote on platforms, we vote on emotions. And then when we miss the entire point of it. Kasi, di ba, if you really want respect, don't go to the person. Go to the issue at hand. Because when you respect the issue, when you go to the issue at hand, you respect precisely the person who actually issued that statement. So hindi na kayo mag-aaway sa respeto mo ba kita o hindi. Kasi given na yan. Kaya nga, topic lang. So,
thank you very much, Father IJ, for sharing. I think I can point out two things dun sa sinabi ni Father IJ Apple. No? So number one, if you disagree, then you can disagree in the spirit of respectfulness. And siguro yung pangalawa, you don't necessarily have to argue, because if you just focus on the topic at hand and you have the intention of resolving the matter, I believe you can arrive at a common ground. Yan, basahin ko lang tong comment ni Sir Jason Sarmiento. I agree with Father IJ. Meron talaga mga standards na objective, universal and relevant sa time. So we have to anchor on these standards. Thank you for sharing, Sir Jason.
So ayan, painit na ng painit ang ating discussion this afternoon. So I
That's
think
right.
let's talk about ano na naman, other purposes of social media. Siguro ginagamit naman natin to promote certain causes, right? So let's now talk about your advocacies. Gusto namin malaman, how do you use and maximize social media ba para you'll be able to promote your cause? Let's start first with Cliza. Cly?
So, for me, kasi diba, I'm in pageantry. And then there's this common misconception na um, people who join pageantry are only pushing forward their advocacies pag nagko-compete na sa pageant itself. And for me kasi I'm not like that. So when I have time, especially over the Christmas break and over the summer break, I actually also initiate these advocacies that I have on my own, especially regarding to indigenous preservation kasi close yun sa aking heart because both my parents are from Davao Oriental and then we are part of the Mandaya tribe. So the question now is, how can you share that with other people ngayon na pandemic naman na we cannot face each other personally? So there comes the very, very convenient platform of social media. So what I like to do is whenever I have a project, I actually like to share it with other people. And then sobrang nakaka-heartwarming receiving messages from other people na parang they also want to start their own causes pero ayaw pa nila kasi they feel like it's too small. But for me, there's no cause that is too small to start because of course, every journey starts with a single step. So if you have an advocacy, start small and eventually, hindi mo na namamalaya na sobrang dami mo na palang tao na natutulungan. Yan pa.
Alright, thank you, Cly. By the way, Cly, do you also partner with a certain organization ba ngayon? Meron ka bang ka-partner?
Actually, kasi ang target ko talaga na community, it's called Sangab. It's 6 hours away from Davao, tapos sobrang secluded niya na community to the point na when I inquired, hindi sila nagtatanggap ng help from any NGOs kasi they had past experiences na parang na-exploit ang kanilang culture for the sake of the organization. So sobrang na-touch ako when they welcomed me sa kanilang community and then when they allowed me to also help them. And sobrang cool kasi yung tribal leader pala nila is also a graduate from Ateneo de Davao. She's a girl and sobrang empowering lang kasi her dad, she lost her dad sa isang conflict dun sa rural na area. So she had to step up and after she graduated, siya na nag-step up as a tribal leader. So sobrang inspiring yun, of course, as a woman, taking up a leadership position that big and preserving the culture of Mandaya kasi Sangam is one of the last remaining communities to fully preserve the Mandaya culture. So sobrang exciting ako to do more projects on the area.
Alright, pang Miss Universe yun ah.
Wala bang flat button to?
Mag-install tayo nito, Father, next time.
Heart.
Oo, hearts naman. Pa-heart naman sa comment section, mga sa audience natin. Di ba, Apple?
Yes, and of course, pwede kayo mag-comment dyan ng mga questions nyo din. And again, don't forget yung official hashtag natin, hashtag woke up like this. Sa mga gustong maki-partner din kay Glyza and mag-join sa kanyang advocacy, Gly, now is your opportunity. Baka may mga gustong mag-volunteer dyan. So, you might want to tell them kung paano sila pwede maki-partner with you.
Actually, sobrang nakakasaya kasi after my last advocacy project, it was during the summer break ng June. Sobrang daming people na nagme-message na, do you need manpower? Do you need these kinds of resources? Kasi makaka-help ang people. So I think social media has really proven to be super, super useful when it comes to touching other people na, ay, ang dami palang gustong tumulong, hindi pala ako mag-isa. Kaso though, when kinausap ko yung leader ng community, since they're a super secluded na area, hindi sila nagpapapasok ng just anyone. So, the way that people can mostly help is through donations. And then kami na mismo, kami ng aking family, ang dala doon sa community. So, ayun po, it's still such a big help.
Wow, thank you, Cly. So, if they're interested, paano ba yan? They'll just PM you na lang, no?
PM, Glyza, PM send. I think Apple, Add friend. Ayan, Father. Tama yan. Add friend muna.
Apa, gano'n na lang.
Siguro, Apollo, ako, I think, no, going back to, the main topic for our gathering this afternoon, for our episode this afternoon, yung pagiging woke. I think more importantly than having social awareness or opinion on social issues, it's very important that you have an advocacy. You have an advocacy that you really stand for. Hindi yung random opinion or random random expression of thoughts and feelings lang yung ginagawa natin na social media. So it's always important we go back to our core advocacy. Sige. Sino naman yung next natin na tatanungin about advocacy, Apple?
I think si Jed, meron din siyang advocacy. Right, Jed?
Yeah. Since I'm very much into sports, I think my whole life I was a student athlete, kumbaga. Ako mismo my experience that sports can provide hope. It can change someone's life. And throughout those years na I am into sports, nakikita natin na we can do more with it, kumbaga. So yung group or yung organization that I feel that I am with is the Mindanao Peace Games. Ang convener niyan si Coach Noli Ayo, the University Sports Director of Ateneo de Davao University. So parang yun yung bigger picture, kumbaga, the Mindanao Peace Games. Basically, we use sports to promote peace in Mindanao. And yung the smaller projects or yung mga more specific projects that I have been in part of is yung Project KKKK, Kalaro Kaibigan Kasama Kakwentuhan. Because during the pandemic, or basically when the pandemic started, all the athletes na alam mong every morning hanggang gabi, grind, biglang sabihin mo, stop, tigil ka, bawal ka lumabas, bawal ka maglaro. And for athletes na, for all their, parang their whole life, sanay sila sa ganong routine, parang basically we were lost. So we took to social media, we used the online platform to have this kwentuhan session. Hindi nga siya online forum eh. Parang we really called it kwentuhan. So ano meron dito? It was a student athlete-led kwentuhan session na nag-i-invite kami ng people from like sports or even more, no? And then we talk about important issues, not only about sports. I think a lot of that was about leadership, mental health, considering na ang daming mga student athletes were really down during this time. And I think we were still able to spread that kind of yung mga gusto namin iparating na idea to different people because of social media. And also because of the pandemic, we never expected ito shameless promotion na lang of our book, yung Winning Still. Okay, so yung Winning Still, ayan. Yeah, Carlo had
may copy pala, ready ah.
Yan, so imagine.
Galing sa Blue Booters.
So ito, for the first 100 days, different 27 sports personalities recorded their learnings, kumbaga mga insights nila about sports on how we can still continue winning, not necessarily related to sports. And I think if people read this, ang mga sumulat lang naman dyan, si Ate Heidelin Diaz, sila Coach Sandy Arespaco-Chaga, so those, yung mga Olympians pa natin, sila Ate Bing Amit, diba? So if you get to see their perspective about, how to continue winning even in the small things in life, I think we are able to call this parang naggagampanan namin yung role namin of still spreading our do more. And I think mas na-amplify yan during this time, during the pandemic na maximize natin yung social media.
Ayan. And thank you for the sharing, Jed, ano? Ayan, palapakan din naman natin si Jed, okay, for sharing his advocacy. Thank you, Liza, and thank you. Siguro, I think what's important right now, now that, more and more people are on social media, mas daling i-amplify yung ating advocacy. As a student leader naman, tanungin natin si Carlo. Ano ba advocacy natin, Carlo?
Of course, admittedly, when the online setup started, it was very difficult to even think of how we can go beyond the online platform, how can we be able to be relevant as a student government. I've been in student government for 3 years, maulisod dito siya. But I think what made it very easy for us was this philosophy, or hindi na philosophy, but an idea na we see so many mobilized organizations outside of Mindanao. And you see Mindanao is a diverse culture, so many student leaders. Why can't we mobilize for ourselves? This is where youth empowerment really comes in, wherein a lot of passion projects are made. In fact, a lot of my co-student leaders who I've supported in the Samahan, in different organizations, have already mobilized for different public schools to donate uh, connectivity devices, educational materials, and drives. And I think these are meaningful at this time because it's a time for compassion. Kumbaga, if we can mobilize for others, then why not? Because at the end of the day, it's about creating spaces for young children to thrive and also for young children to really continue education at this time. And I think the most relevant thing na the Samahan Central Board and a lot of our organizations are really advocating for is firstly, to be registered to vote, to be politically aware. Daghan kayo nagapanghitabo karon sa Pilipinas para dili ta makabalo. Engage citizenry. And second, and thirdly pala, what is most important for us right now is for us to keep ourselves safe, keep ourselves healthy. How do we do that? To be vaccinated. Magpabakuna na po tayo na yun. We have so many people, we have to be vaccinated in order to be part of the herd immunity. And I hope na with these advocacies, dagan kayo advocacies, but you know, we're just centering upon these three ideas, and I hope na us as a university, we can move forward together. Yun lang po. Salamat.
Ayan, thank you very much, Carlo. I guess, palapakan niyan. Another clap na naman. Para fair. Okay. I think, what Carlo is pointing out is, hindi lang puro salita. Hindi lang yung social awareness na puro lang salita. Kundi nandun din sa gawa. Okay, sige. Pakinggan natin yung, reaction. Ano naman yung take ni Father IJ sa sharing ng mga kabataan natin ngayon? Thumbs up lang din ba, Father?
Nag-guilty ako ni Carlo eh. Kasi hindi ko kasalanan. Wala pong second dose ng Sputnik eh. So, kaya ingat pa ako. Tagal pa yata dumating yung second dose. But anyway. But I agree. I really agree with what Clay and Jed are saying. I have a friend na 3 years younger sa akin sa law school, si Mara Ruiz. She's now also Miss World Bohol, is competing for 2-3 years behind in law school. Yung ganun din, no? Parang sometimes we think na, but ako, if there's advocacy for through social media, how do I go about it? I go through friends, hopefully like sila Clysa to do it. Kasi sila yung mas maraming following. Sila magti-trending, ako hanggang old trend lang. But in terms of, for me, ngayon yung mas binabantayan ko is the mental health of people, especially of the younger ones. That's what we're trying to do, trying to accompany. And part of that campaign to really to seriously take a look at mental wellness is also our own ability on keeping our personal integrity intact. That's the thing that also becomes social media becomes a double-edged sword, and I've always been afraid that the platform also can become something that destroys a person because you start posting too often, too much, and then you begin to need to have to post in order to continue with your following, and you end up starting with little lies, then a little more lies, more lies, and then there's nothing left but you've lost yourself in the process. So I've always, even in terms of conversations with the young, I've always tried to focus on the mental wellness, but also in terms of in terms of our personal integrity, because that's very important. We lose that, we lose everything. You know? So Sabi dito, pwede daw ako magtanong sa, tanong ko sana si Jed. Sorry, Jed, blue booter.
Go ahead, Father.
Kasi kapitan si Jed ng Lasal football team eh. Sorry, Jed, think blue kami. But just for a quick question lang, how do you train given online? I mean, given the restrictions. Wala si Sir Jen.
Hindi ko pala si Chef Father. Pero, ayan, parang nawala nga si Chef. Anyway, napaka-inspiring ng mga advocacies nila, Father, ano? So, we hope that we'd also be able to take part sa mga ganyang advocacies. Kasi kami, we're from home, and of course, we try our best to participate, pero iba pa rin yung meron ka talagang tinututukan na specific advocacy.
Ayan.
Ayan,
Bumalik na si Jed. That's okay, you know, things like this really happen. I guess Jed is just preparing for his answer.
Pag yung mga green kasi nabubut out pag green.
May personal bias talaga si Father IJ sa colors. Ano, di ba, Father? Napag-usapan natin, no colors involved.
No, political colors sabi mo eh.
Ayan. Sige. Well, speaking of mental health, eto na, mental health. Mabuti nabanggit yun ni Father IJ kanina, Apple. No? Ikaw, Apple, how do you maintain your mental well-being, Apple?
Okay, so I started using yung Jesuit website na para siyang merong examen. So, I use this one in my class also. So, it's a website maintained by Irish Jesuits. So, I start my day by logging in dyan na website. Tapos may pang-music siya. So, you can begin your day by meditating. And then, of course, meron akong album ng mga daily affirmations. So, yun muna before mag-scroll na anything on social media kasi it might ruin your day or kung ano. So, begin with a prayer para ma-set yung mood for the day.
Ayan. I think very important talaga, no, that we have people like Father IJ, si Cliza, si Carlo, no, who are also advocates, no, of mental well-being. Kasi, alam mo yun, ang dami nating nakikitang iba't ibang opinions sa social media, and I believe that there are some people who take these opinions very differently, no? Some of them may not be able to take the negativity or the disagreement happening on social media platforms. So, ayan, I think Jed is okay to answer the question of Father IJ. Father, paki-prepare na rin yung questions mo for Liza and Carlo. Thank you. Go ahead, Jed.
Yes po, sorry, I wasn't able to hear the question.
Sabi ko, curious lang ako, how do you train given the situation?
Well, when the pandemic, let's say, nung nasa pandemic pa lang, really online. We do everything online since, I remember nung morning nung training namin last sa Manila, I think doon pa lang nag-start yung mga messages na magkaka-lockdown daw, ganon. So, I asked permission from our coach kung pwede yung mga, especially the provincial players, uuwi sila kasi syempre yung mga parents nila nag-aalala. Mahirap na maiwan kami lahat sa Manila, may lockdown, wala kaming resources, wala kaming masayan ba or good thing that the university was able to provide naman. But everything now, since lahat kami nasa iba't ibang places, we're all doing it online.
Sabay-sabay.
So, yeah po, sabay-sabay.
Ba't pag maghang ang iba?
I think what they do now is they post the workout routine in case na hindi makasabay yung iba online. But Father, I think I'm one of the few, or I think not few, but blue-blooded Lasalista or gene-blooded Atenista? Parang ganun, parang hybrid kumbaga. Because for the whole time nung grade school, high school, I think I really enjoyed the Ignatian formation. Sa Ateneo de Davao, and then yung more opportunities lang opened up when I moved to the LSU ng college. So I don't worry, I'm proud on being both an Atenista and Lasalista.
Galing talaga, galing sinagot.
Lusot. Joke lang po.
Siyempre, Father, kasi si Cliza, si Carlo, Jed, lahat Ateneo ito eh. Okay? Ateneo Junior High School. Ayan, pa-shout out sa lahat ng members ng Ateneo de Davao Junior High. Alright, Father, may tanong ka ba for Carlo or Cliza?
Go ahead, Father.
Ano yung telephone number natin, Joe? Hindi, ako, well, maybe to Carlo na lang muna, no? Before kay Carlo. How are we doing with that, no? I mean, kasi may nakita ko sa comments, sabi, is it good to be woke? Diba? So, syempre, we've been talking about it and we're saying na it's really the awareness and the call to action. But as Samahan President, how are you trying to bring the youth to really be more active given this restriction?
Okay. Napaka-pressure naman ng question mo, Father. Parang mag-enter ako sa Xavier University. Pero I think there are so many students, so many organizations within Ateneo. And the Samahan President or the Samahan can't do it alone. This is where the Jesuit formation came in, when they told me and few student leaders to just give space for participation. Kung ano ang gusto ng mga estudyante, ibibigay natin para mabigyan din sila ng parang drive to really participate. And I think that's the main capacity that we're trying to do now, to make sure that the youth is mobilized. Right now, there are so many initiatives from the Samahan down to our organizations, from political science, environment, dagan kayo. And I think that's very admirable. And I think I can really relate this to really your advocacy on mental health, Father ba? I think what's most important for student leaders like us today is to really take care of our mental health. How? By really knowing what you can control and what you can't control. And I think what we can control is the space that we give, and what we can't control is how students will participate or maybe enjoy our activities. But at the end of the day, let's just enjoy the journey. And not just me as Samahan President alone, but also to all the student leaders out there. Yun na po.
Thanks for that, Carl.
Alright.
Okay,
sige.
is important. Clay, so how do you deal now with people still with that, unfortunately, parang a little bit more of a stunted paradigm of like your advocacy, or both your advocacy, for pageantry and for the indigenous culture, and you would see that talagang our kitid pud na pagtanaw in both are really present, and the prejudice would come out the bias would come out, sometimes to no fault of theirs. But normally, how do you engage when you have this, I can imagine, minsan even bordering on bastos minsan na mga, when they engage. So how do you...
Actually, we get asked about that a lot. Like, how do you react when people say that pageants are not relevant anymore nowadays? Pero in my perspective talaga, kasi the Philippines is one of the most pageant crazed countries there ever is, if not the most. As in, when I was training for my first international pageant, the camp that I was training in also trained girls from other countries, and then they will always tell me na, you're so lucky to be in a country that really supports pageantry. So the silver lining in there, even though there's still this misconception na pageants just glorify like the physical aspect of a woman, we cannot deny that these beauty queens are actually public figures to the people. And what are the positive implications when you're a public figure? Of course, the negative is that everything will be criticized. There's always something negative to say about you. But the positive thing is you have an influence and you have a voice. So the question is, what will you do about it? So in my personal experience, what I do about it is really advance my causes on indigenous preservation and really being proud of where I come from. Because there are so many misconceptions about Davao. When I was competing nationally, people will ask me yung mga usual stereotypical questions about Davao, like, may mall ba dito? concrete pa ang kalsada dito. Parang, bakit gano'n?
May mall dyan?
No, of course not. May mall
Grabe
dyan.
grabe siya,
That's
grabe
probably
siya.
the number one question that
Promise.
provincianos get asked. I swear.
Promise, as in, I was really, really shocked. Sabi nila na, basta yung mga ganong tipong stereotypes. And then, actually, yun talaga yung mga experience ng probinsyano, not just in the industry of pageantry, pero everywhere. So, for me, being inside a pageant, if I will compete again in the future, I will really pour everything to bring the pride of where I come from, which is being in Davao and also being a part of the Mandaya tribe. Yan pa.
Thanks, Clyde.
Sure.
Dito si Jim, curious na tayo.
Ayan. And thank you very much, Clay, for sharing that, for being the voice of women, of empowered women here, the only rose among the thorns, I must say. I just remember, when I also went abroad. Ay, si Apple,
Grabe.
Tama pala. Oh, sorry, Apple. Naku, baka maka-offense si Apple, father. I remember when somebody asked me, I went abroad, taga Maynila, Ruel, taga Mindanao ka ba? Gaano kayo kalapit sa Marawi? O kumusta na yun sa Mindanao? Di ba sa Marawi may bombing ganon? So parang sa kanto lang yung Marawi. Okay. Ayan. Anyway, thank you once again for all the wonderful sharing of ideas we have here, Apple. How do we move next?
So I think the emphasize talaga in our conversation earlier is that aside from the advocacy and aside from promoting it in social media, meron silang kanya-kanyang call to action. So again, lumalabas na collaboration is really very important. And also yung mga netizens natin, mga kabataan, try to reflect as well, gaano ka ba ka-ready na makipag-collaborate? Gaano ka ba kahanda na mag-participate? Yan. So, I think speaking of collaboration, we would also like to encourage our Facebook and YouTube audience to participate by asking questions through the comment section. Again, please don't forget to observe netiquette. And your questions will be answered a little later. I think meron tayong comment dito. Kudos to Ate Liza, who shows so much potential and has always been so active in social formation since her days in Adu Senior High School. Ayan. So,
Actually,
maraming
Sir Jean was one of my teachers yung senior high. Super, ina-idolize ko siya as a teacher ng senior high. Thank you, Sir Jean.
Ayan.
Another message pa from Sir Jean. Yes, Kuya Carlo, enjoying the journey is very important. And thank you so much po for participating in the comment section. Again, meron kayong chance na manalo sa ating paraffle and sa ating game. And don't forget to use our official hashtag #WokeUpLikeThis. Again, like what I've mentioned earlier, you're free to comment your questions and we will answer that a little later. For now, we want you to sit back and relax as we watch the Adu JHS community engagement song entitled Ikaw, Ako, Sila. Let's watch this.
Kamay ay nakatali, paay lunod sa putik. Di alam kung paano maigalaw ang mga to. Mata ay nakapiring, bibig-bigil di makasabi. Di malaman kung paano malalabanan nito. Totoo nga bang timbangan ay wala na kabuluhan? Totoo nga bang madilim na ang kinabukasan ni Juan? Lieg na kalampitin, pinaglalaroan ng hangin, kung saan-saan na lang dinadala ng bagyo. Hanggat nariyan ka, ako sila at nagkakaisa. May bubuwag natin ang puno na ang buhay puro sama. Walang magkatatalo sa tinig ng mga taong kapit-bisig. Anumang dagok sa buhay ang darating di sabayang makiisa. Tara na, sabay-sabay gawin ang tama. Simulan na ang awitin, pagbabago ng damdamin. Isigaw natin, tumayo tayong nakataas noo. Dahil nariyan ka, ako, sila at nagkakaisa. Babaliktarin natin ang mali at gawin tong tama. Hey! Walang magkatatalo sa tinig ng mga taong kapit-bisig. Anumang dagok sa buhay ang darating dito. Di maiwawala ang diwa ng mga naniniwala. Kasangga natin ang Diyos, ako, ikaw at sila. Tara na, halina at sabayang makiisa. Tara na, sabay-sabay gawin ang tama. Oras natin ay dumating na. Ikaw, ako, sila, ang bagong umaga. Walang makatatalo sa tinig ng mga taong kapit-bisig. Anumang dagok sa buhay ang darating dito. Di maiwawala ang diwa ng mga naniniwala. Kasangga natin ang Diyos, ako, ikaw at sila. Walang makatatalo sa tinig ng mga taong kapit-bisig. Anumang dagok sa buhay ang darating dito. Di maiwawala ang diwa ng mga naniniwala. Kasangga natin ang Diyos, ako, ikaw at sila. Tara na, halina at sabayang makiisa. Tara na, sabay-sabay gawin ang tama. Tara na, halina at sabayang makiisa. Tara na, sabay-sabay gawin ang tama.
Ayan, thank you very much, Ado Junior High School Community Engagement. By the way, mga alumni natin, this is a newly installed office of the Ateneo de Davao Junior High School. I guess it's time, Apple, for live question and answer.
Yes, Roel. So while we're waiting also sa ating mga questions, I'll be reading the mechanics for our contest. So tama talaga yung andun sa song, tara na't gawin ang tama. Maaari natin yung simulan by simply following us in our Ado JHS Community Engagement Facebook page. Ayan, I think makikita nyo din siya in your screens. And we would also like to invite everyone to like the ISFO Facebook page and subscribe to ISFO YouTube channel. Isa pang tama na pwede natin gawin ngayon ay ang pakikilahok sa ating episode contest. We will be selecting best takeaway statements from our participants, and the lucky winners will receive prizes such as coffee essentials, coffee packs, mugs, and tumblers. And the same prizes will also be given to the participant who is most engaged in this afternoon's discussion about articulating views on social issues. We will also give the same prize to the winner of the statement video contest. The submission of entries is extended until next week. And in that video, you must creatively respond to these essential questions. First, what does it mean to be awake in this day and age? Does my voice still matter? And third, why should my voice be heard? For more details about the mechanics, you can find this on the ISFO Facebook page and the Ado JHS Community Engagement Facebook page. Ayan. So, Roel, meron na ba tayong mga questions?
Ayan, medyo mahaba-haba yung explanation natin doon, Apple. Thank you very much. Kung gusto niyo magpa-walk, guys, dito na kayo kasi may premyo. Okay? Sige. Mayroon na tayong question. Ito parang suki ito si Sir Jean, Thank you very much, Sir Jean. let me read the question. Can we still be woke in silence? Napaka ironic naman ito. How big should an action be to be genuinely woke? Sige. I'd like to, invite our guests kung sino ba ang gustong sumagot nito first. Anyone? Interesting,
May I?
no? To be woke. Ayan, go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Jen.
I think it is possible, like what Father IJ said kanina. I think I like same po ako sa'yo na I don't really post online like
Mm.
much of my thoughts. I'd prefer talking individually to a person. I think being woke in silence is also enriching yourself with the enough and correct knowledge. Kasi I think it becomes negative. Yung pagiging woke becomes negative if we remove the personal filter, we remove a certain filter that we just accept everything online as true. Na we really have to, number one, fact check. We have to really we have to be diligent in making our research. And I think being woke in silence is knowing in ourselves now we are doing enough research, we are enriching ourselves with enough knowledge for us to make a certain stand about a certain issue. And I think you can be woke in silence if you just influence. Let's say someone wants to have a conversation or a discussion with you, and you parang nagkakaroon kayo ng healthy discussion. You don't have to really, or for some, let's say, you don't have to really blurt out to everyone na ito ang belief ko, kailangan maniwala kayo. I think by just influencing one person and having that healthy conversation with just one person at least, it is possible to still, be woke, kumbaga.
Ayan, thank you very much, Jed, no? So, from what you're saying, kumbaga, one person at a time, being woke with one person at a time. Okay? May mga bagay na hindi kailangang dalhin sa social media. May mga bagay na kailangan lang natin gawin ng personal. And eventually, it will create an impact on the lives of other people. For the same question, sino ba dito ang gusto mag-share sa ating guests? To be woke in silence.
Ako na muna.
Father IJ, ayan, Father
Ang
IJ.
hirap yung next question. Bahala na si Carlo at si Clyde.
Para mauna ka na, Father. Ayan.
Ako, I mean, what do we really mean when we say silence? What does being silent mean? If it means na silence is a very pregnant word. You say na silent na tahimik ka lang or silent na talagang wala kang pakialam. But when you say woke in silence, if you're meaning na, because the follow-up question is what would be the magnitude to say that you're really woking, no? I would think na, as I said earlier, that if I message a person, I just don't message to say I disagree with you or check on your facts. But I also say, if you think it's wrong, be accountable for it. Repost or bring it down. Kasi you have to also respect on the things that should be true, and you know that people are leading. And I always say na baka ikaw tamaan at the end of the day kasi mali, medyo hindi tama, and then magiging ikaw patuloy ang magiging magmumukhang sinungaling. I always do not. I have nothing wrong with people to say sorry and just kumbaga adjust. It's so difficult, lalo for me, to know if there are people na talagang paninindigan kahit alam nilang kanto na sila sa mali. I don't think there's anything wrong with admitting one is wrong and just to say sorry and stand up for one's action. And I hope culturally we also get to learn that. Kasi sa atin, ganun din kadalasan eh. Hindi tayo, parang hirap sa atin tumanggap na mali. As if we have to be always right. Kahit nga sa election, no political color, pero tingin mo, walang natatalo. Either nanalo ka o nataya ka. There's no such thing as, diba? So parang, you also have to understand that not the world does not revolve around you. The world does not revolve around that. So if I make a mistake, allow me to correct it. And I would, mas hahanga ako sa tao na may kapasidad na magsabi, I'm sorry, can I bounce back? Life is not about not making mistakes. It's about the ability to get back out the saddle after the mistake.
Ayan. All right, thank you very much, Father. Ako, I can agree with Father with what he shared. Tama nga naman, napakaraming voices we hear on our social media platforms. Lahat tama. Okay, pag pinanindigan mo yung sinabi mo, ile-label ka na agad, or iti-take personally against yung comment mo, kaya lalong gumugulo, And meron yung next question natin. Eto, feeling ko, yung dalawang remaining guests natin can relate to this. What is the connection of being woke and freedom of expression? Bago lang sila mag-share, may naalala ako, Apple. Meron ako nakita sa social media sa Facebook. May dalawang klaseng freedoms daw eh. May isang freedom of speech. Okay? Meron namang freedom of spit. Okay? Pagdura. Okay? And that's the expression, people use for abusing the freedom of speech. Sabi nga nila. Ito na. Ano nga bang connection ng pagiging woke? Okay, are they contradicting? Okay, or do they go together? Anyone from the guests?
I think,
Ano lang
no.
po.
Yan,
Si
go,
Carla
Kenza.
na lang.
Sino ba?
Sino mo una?
Ladies first. Ladies first.
Sige.
Go ahead.
I think naman, we all know that, the freedom of expression it's part of our constitution. So it's really a part of our basic human rights as citizens of this country. So I think woke is like an application of that freedom of expression. So it's more of how you use it. So do you exploit it? Do you use it to attack people? Do you use it to educate people? Because as I mentioned, diba, being woke can go both ways. It can be either positive or negative. So it's more of an application of how you express your own personal opinions, especially when it comes to a controversial topic on social media. Kasi minsan pang rason yun ng tao na, ay, bahala kayo dyan, ito opinion ko, I have a freedom of expression. But the question is, are you using it well? Are you using it correctly? Or for the sake lang nasasabi na, ay, may karapatan ako, so I can say whatever I want, even without the proper research to back it up. So when we say that we have to be woke, from our freedom of expression, it comes with a responsibility. So it's not just a right, it's also a responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you. Iba talaga pag galing sa mutya yung mga sagot Okay, para kang nanonood ng pageant, parang nakikinig ng Q&A ng isang pageant, 'di ba, Apple?
Galing ng mga pagkakasabi ni Liza, no? So, I think yung other guest natin makaka-relate dun sa na-mention ni Liza earlier. Si Carlo kaya, Carl?
I definitely agree with the opinion naman. I think the being woke and freedom expression directly complements one another, because as what we got from our first part of our conversation, to be woke is to be practically aware, and the freedom of expression is practically allowing yourself to articulate responsibly without, of course, walang lalabag na batas or wala tayong ginagawa na mali. Of course, it's going to be really difficult for us to really correlate between the two, because social issues are not black and white. Nadyo yung mga things na dili na makita, na we have to nuance everything. But I think it still connects. It's just a matter of how you really connect with the person that you're articulating to, because we can't just say anything that might be irresponsible or that a person might find offensive. It's just a matter of really the spirit of dialogue that the university is really proud of, to really seek that common ground and exploring different opinions on issues. So yun lang, just complementing the answer.
All right. I like the answer of Liza kanina. Exercising right and responsibility yung shinare naman ni Carlo kanina, yung issues are not black and white. Yan yung madalas nating nakikita, sa mga pa-woke na sinasabi nila na, kumbaga, ito ay tama, ito ay mali. Okay? Yan ay akin, yan naman ay iyo. Yung mga ganon, yung pagiging divisive. Okay? That's becoming, I think, common and pervasive nowadays. May isa pa pala tayong question.
Okay, so we have another question. This is coming from Gail Marie Del Mundo. Is being woke entirely good for our democracy?
Ayan, democracy, big word.
Oh, yes. Who would like to answer this question kaya sa ating mga guests?
Yes.
Apple would get the answer. Go ahead, Father IJ.
Ako ba? Ako, yes. Yes, it is. Yung woke, hindi yung pa-woke. Yung pa-woke, bad for our democracy yan, yung pataka. But being woke is entirely good for our democracy because democracy precisely is, well, again, we're not yet there. We'll get there. Together we'll get there. But genuine democracy is precisely that space that's allowed for us to express our ideals, our own hopes, our longings, our claims or wants, and also our dreams together, individually, communal. That's the entire concept and beauty of democracy in its pure sense. And it's something that we really want to achieve. No? And that is very important. And pero diba, sino may sabi madali magbuo ng bayan? It's not that easy. But if there are no wokes, if we're not woke, because we think that it will just hinder the country, then you're opening up to an anarchy or to a communism. Democracy is precisely that space that allows for people's minds. There's a freedom of expression enshrined in Article 3, yes, but together with that freedom of expression is also that my freedom of expression must not encroach on your own other freedoms that are also given by virtue of our own humanity. So I cannot just simply say because it's freedom of expression, magpawo ko, magpataka ko, even if it already insults a person and degrades and dehumanizes him or her. That's not democracy. No? So, but woke, as we have been talking about this afternoon, is important for democracy. It's really very important because that allows for that space and that dialogue na sabi pa nga ni Carlo, so very thankful for Ateneo de Davao, the very, very dialoguing community. I hope the dialogue goes to action. Yes, because that is very, very important.
All right, ayan, thank you very much, no, Father IJ. Do you have anything else in mind in relation to Father IJ's sharing? Mga kabataan natin, I guess we're good to go. Ayan, go ahead, Carlo.
I think this question is quite close to heart. Political science student, and of course, democracy is a freedom, a market of free ideas. Dagan kayo perspectives around the world, as we've said in this conversation. And I think what makes democracy beautiful, even though we're not there yet, as what Father IJ believes, is it's still in development. I think you can never really have a utopic society. And I think being woke actually complements democracy in a sense na we're having more informed citizens and even more engaged people. And I think when people are more engaged toward democracy, speaking on issues, and other than speaking, acting on those issues, I think it becomes beneficial. So yan lang po, very short, but I hope that complements.
Ayan, all right. Thank you very much.
Hello, 2022.
Yes, Apple.
And so thank you so much to our guests for this very enriching discussion. So unfortunately, medyo kapos na tayo sa time. So we will now go to our last question. We'd like to ask our guests to please give a message sa ating mga netizens this afternoon on how to be actively engaged in a community and how to be socially aware. Siguro, let's begin with Jed this time.
All right. Siguro I'll point out a few key points that we were able to discuss kanina. Number one, if you are inside a discussion, always remember na pairalin yung respeto. You are there to discuss about the issue, not to attack one another. Next is please register to vote, because I think that's one of the best ways for us to really engage sa what on the things that can or what we want to happen for our country. So I'll just leave it at that.
Ayan, thank you so much. Once again, that's Jed Jamante. So respect and then don't forget to vote. Yan yung reminder ni Jed for everyone. And now let's call Glyza.
So, I hope for everyone who watched, you got some takeaways from this discussion. So, you got the perspective of a student athlete, a student leader, the Jesuit perspective, and also mine. And for my own personal naman na takeaways, I like how Carlo was super direct to the calls to action, yung magpapabakuna, tsaka register to vote, which are two very, very crucial actions that every one of us must take, especially during these trying times. And for the concept naman of being pa-woke, I hope everybody has some sort of clarity na it doesn't always mean something negative, that it can also be something that you can create it to be positive depending on what you will do with the information that you have. Because for me, it is one of the many gifts or like many advantages of our generation. We're more aware, we're more well researched because we have more resources. So being that, we have to do more and do our part for our country also. Yan po.
Alright.
And thank you, Clay. So, dalawa na. Merong call to register for the upcoming election. Ayan, mga kabataan natin hindi pa nakakapag-register, please do not forget to do your part. And second, yung panawagan nila about bakuna. Magpabakuna na yung mga hindi pa nakakapagpabakuna. Let's now hear from Father IJ. Father?
Yes, pabakuna kayo. Huwag niyo akong ganyan. Ako, just for me, two things also. One, kasi nasabi na nila yung register to vote. Ako, sa akin, don't stop at registering and voting. Hold our leaders accountable. We have a tendency na pag-vote, after we vote, mag-relax na. We build the country together. We don't just put it there and then bahala ng leaders. We all have to do our part. So that's one. And second, especially for the young, my mom has always been telling me this when she was alive. I didn't really get to understand it until recently. Just be consistent. Be consistent. You'll never go wrong if you're consistent. In everything you do, actions and words, just be consistent.
Alright. Napaka-big word talaga ng consistency, Apple, ano? Okay, very important in everything you do. You have to be consistent. Okay, tama din yung sinabanggit kanina, no? Na magpa-vaccine o sa lahat ng hindi pa zombie dyan. Magpa-zombie na kayo, guys. Be one of us, vaccinated zombies. I hope you don't believe that, okay, that's fake news. Go ahead, Apple.
Seriously though, maganda yung sinabi ni Father na reminder sa atin and being consistent. So hindi yung right after the election, right after niyo makapagboto, kalimutan na, wala na akong pakialam. So it doesn't end there, it is a process. Now let's hear from Carlo.
Okay, of course, it was really an honor to be with everyone here, of course, with my fellow student athlete na si Jajamante, whom I have his book with me right now. Of course, si Cliza was once my facilitator sa senior high school, and of course, Father IJ. I hope to really see you soon personally, Father IJ. So of course, there's a lot in store in the future, but of course, just a little share lang. Of course, the Samahan already has their project. It's already launched, Samahan ng Pinas. You may check us out. We have a lot of things in store, storytelling. And of course, next week, may segment din tayo with the ISFO for usapang bakit ka mag-register to vote with the Catholic Educational Association of the Philippines, or CEAP. And of course, with our different organizations. Now, a lot has been said in this conversation, but what I really want to share is that find a way to really help our communities. Alam mo yang, there's so much to do around the Philippines, and sana let's find a way to give back to our communities other than going outside the Philippines or going outside your province. I hope na we can build our communities by starting with our own before we go to bigger communities, because once we have that sense of empowerment, we can do so much in the country. And this is where the notion really comes in, na don't just register to vote, but vote, and after you vote, we'll build the nation. And after building the nation, we become part of the nation, and eventually, sasabihin natin lahat ng ginagawa natin ay para sa bayan. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat.
Ayan, para sa bayan. Tama, para sa bayan.
Thank you so much, Carlo. So, napaka-important ng mga points na na-highlight ni Carlo in his takeaway. And it's also important that we remember we are not just an individual. So, guys, do not shrink yourself to just an individual. Each of us is a significant part of the community. Ayan, maraming salamat po sa ating mga guests of this afternoon for this memorable and very enriching discussion.
Ayan, meron nag-comment. Sabi ni Eden Celestino Cacho, great, very engaging and relevant daw ang ating episode for today. Thank you. Okay, for staying with us towards the end of our episode for this afternoon. Ayan, yun ang muli. Maraming salamat sa ating mga guests and viewers as we end this episode. You know, we are called to think. Saang level ka na ba? Gulat ka ba? I mean, hanggang ngayon, hindi ka pa aware sa mga nangyayari sa paligid mo? Mulat ka ba? Aware ka? Pero wala ka masyadong ginagawa? Hindi ka nag-research? Or gising ka na? You are now ready, okay, for the call to appropriate and effective action. Correct, Apple?
That's right, Roel. There should be transition from thought to action. Kaya naman, listen to your heart and actively take part. Maraming salamat to all our guests and to our netizens. Thank you so much to all our viewers. See you again in the next ISFO TV episode. Goodbye, everyone.
Happy weekend!
Happy weekend!
Sa iyong sarili, gawing buhay ang sinasabi. Kung ika'y lito, pakinggan, sigaw at bukso ng iyong puso. At kung handa ka na, sigaw mo ang tama. Sa mundong bulag, sa mundong bingi, sa mundong puno ng pagkukunwari. Di pwedeng pwede, di pwedeng hindi. Huwag nating sayangin ang bawat sandali. Gawing maalap, bunot ng silap. Ang pakikibaka ay gawin mong ganap. Isulong ipaglaban, makibaka, ipagtiwang, huwag matakot. Lumaban, hakbang ay simulan. Isulong ipaglaban, makibaka, ipagtiwang, ang ating karapatan tungo sa kapayapaan. magiging payapa kung ang imagsik sa'yo magmumula. Sa'yo magmumula. Sa'yo magmumula.